All right, peace, Black family. So some people hit me in my DM and asked me, could I further expound on the idea of universalism? And again, the definition of universalism is the belief that some ideas have universal application. Simply put, just because it works for you doesn't mean it'll work for me. And as we all know, universalism removes the context from a situation, a historical event, or a conversation, or etc. So keep that in mind. Universalism removes the context, and the definition of context is the circumstances which form the setting for an event, statement, or idea. Keep that in mind. Now, here are some ways that Europeans use universalism against African people. When Europeans say things like, well, we all own slaves, slaves was a part of history, even Africans own slaves. That is a clear cut form of universalism. It takes away the context of, the difference between American chattel slavery and indentured servitude in Africa. It blurs the lines tremendously, and it takes the weight off the shoulders of Europeans for what they've done to Africans. When Europeans and sometimes Africans even say, well, everybody alive come from Africa, that blurs the lines. Europeans had an ethnogenesis. They are not the same as the original Africans, the indigenous people of the land today. But that statement is intended to blur the lines, and it's a good statement to make when you're in Africa fighting over land ownership with Europeans who came and colonized the land. You see how universalism works? We all come from Africa, so this is all land too. And one of my favorites is when they say things like, we're all human until religion separates us, politics divides us, and wealth classifies us. By now, we should have caught onto this whole universal idea that we're all human, we're all the same. We should already know by now that's cap. Now, here's one that's a real touchy subject right now with the whole FBA movement. The idea when people say things like, we're all Americans. Yeah, no. Black Americans and white Americans have had a different experience in this country. It is not universal. It is not all the same. White Americans and black Americans have not had the same experience in this country. But they say things like this to black Americans because it is a political ploy to keep black Americans loyal to this country. Because if they're able to keep you loyal to this country, that means they'll keep you fighting for this country. Again, when Europeans are using universalism, they're removing the social aspect of a conversation, the cultural aspect, the historical aspect, and the economic aspect of a conversation. I'm just going to speed through this one because it could be touchy, but the political aspect of this is everybody doing it. Why don't you try it too? Side note right quick, I just want to say this. So, colonial roots of gender inequality in Africa. A lot of people may not know this, but African men, before making contact with Europeans and Arabs, cherished and loved their women. This new thing we got now with patriarchy in Africa, that comes from the Europeans. So this blanket statement like, oh, men are all patriarchal, and no. That's a universal statement. That's not true for African people. Now, this one might rub a lot of people the wrong way, but the truth is the truth. Now, let's be real. Everybody in this photo, all these children have their own cultural gods, have their own cultural norms, and etc. But you telling me that this God right here, this image right here, has to be their savior? What about the gods that they grew up on? The Asian man got their God. The Hawaiian person got their God. The little East Indian got their God. Even the little African sitting right here with his butt out on the grass, he got his own gods. Why do they all got to believe in this white Jesus? And that's a form of universalism. If they can pull you into their ideas and their beliefs and have it feel like it's universal for everybody, you guys need to follow that. And that's what universalism is. So the next time a European or even a misguided African try to say things like, well, Africans own slaves too, be like, it ain't the same. Or when they say, oh, we all Americans, it ain't the same. But we're all human. It ain't the same. It's not the same.